Welcome to The Explainer. All right, let's just dive directly into this. Today, I am stepping in as your Executive Managing Director to conduct a rigorous top-to-bottom audit of your mathematical assets. Specifically, we are looking at the Cambridge AS and A-Level Mathematics 9709 syllabus. Listen, if you are sitting in the B grade bracket right now, you are sitting on massive untapped equity. Our core objective in this session is to bridge that gap between a B and an A star by completely restructuring how you pitch your mathematical arguments to the absolute toughest stakeholders in this industry, and that's the Cambridge examiners. We are going to treat your exam paper like a high-stakes, multi-million-dollar corporate proposal. Every single line of working you put down is an asset, and every missed negative sign, every dropped symbol is a massive liability. We've got a lot of ground to cover, so let's get this grade proposal audit officially underway.
We are tackling a massive market opportunity today by questioning why so many otherwise brilliant, hardworking candidates consistently lose value on high-tariff questions regarding trigonometric identities. To understand this, I want you to picture a boardroom. Imagine you have two junior consultants working under you. Let's call them Alex and Sam. Now, Alex is what I call a data dumper. He walks right into the boardroom and just throws every single trigonometric formula he has ever memorized onto the table, but he completely fails to evaluate the market risks. That means he provides zero logical evaluation and absolutely no structural proof. He just throws the raw numbers down and hopes the examiner finds the right answers somewhere in that mess. On the other side of the table, you have Sam. Sam is a fast talker, a creative thinker who pitches these brilliant high-level concepts, but Sam completely lacks the hard asset backing. Sam writes down the final steps without actually showing the specific foundational formulas that got him there. Let me be perfectly clear. Neither of these approaches will secure a top-band valuation from a Cambridge examiner. If you hand me a proposal like either of those, I am rejecting it instantly. To get that A-star, you need Alex's raw, factual data seamlessly integrated with Sam's analytical step-by-step pitch. So, here is our executive briefing itinerary for today. We have a highly logical sequence designed to evaluate your skills and mitigate your academic risks. We are currently in the executive briefing. From here, we'll move into core assets, looking at your theoretical architecture. Then we jump into procedural framework execution. After that, we'll be identifying liabilities by looking directly at examiner warnings. And finally, we will wrap up with the final compliance audit. Let's move.
Section 1. Core Assets, Theoretical Architecture. Look, we absolutely cannot build a skyscraper without a rock-solid foundation, and you cannot secure a Band 1 mark without absolute, unquestionable mastery of your theoretical architecture. So we are going to do an asset inventory on the foundational cognitive domains of trigonometry right now.
These two specific identities right here are your core corporate assets. Sin theta over cosine theta identically equals tangent theta, and sin squared theta plus cosine squared theta identically equals 1. Understanding their precise definitions and, more importantly, their causal relationships is completely mandatory for a top-band valuation. You need to understand that these aren't just little equations you memorize for a pop quiz. They are the fundamental conversion metrics of your mathematical currency. You use them to restructure complex, totally unmanageable expressions into streamlined, profitable solutions. If you walk into that exam hall without knowing how to instantly leverage these two assets, to substitute, to manipulate, and to factorize complex equations, you are effectively walking into a high-stakes corporate negotiation without even knowing your own profit margins. The entire theoretical architecture of your final grade rests on exactly how swiftly and accurately you can deploy these identities under extreme time pressure.
Cambridge assessment objectives scale up directly from basic foundational knowledge into rigorous evidence-based critical analysis. It is exactly the difference between merely having the missing puzzle pieces in your hand and actually turning the gears of application. Knowledge and understanding, that's assessment objective 1, is simply knowing those identities exist. But application and analysis, assessment objectives 2 and 3, well, that is where the real equity is generated. Let's bring our junior associates Alex and Sam back into the room for a second. Alex stops completely at knowledge. He provides the puzzle pieces perfectly, but the examiner isn't paying a premium for reciting the dictionary. Sam tries to turn the analytical gears without the foundational knowledge pieces, resulting in an incredibly weak, baseless argument. You, as the executive director of your own exam, must merge them. You use the strict knowledge of the identity as the exact lever to break open the analytical problem. The examiner's marking grid tracks a sort of executive value meter, and it moves from a liability straight up to an asset based entirely on your ability to shift from merely reciting information to structurally analyzing and solving the completely unseen problem right in front of you.
That brings us to Section 2, Procedural Framework Execution. Because having the assets is only half the battle. Knowing exactly how to strategically deploy them when the boardroom clock is ticking down is absolutely everything.
When tackling exam questions, you must follow a strict, standardized sequence to ensure total regulatory compliance with the marking grid. Let me show you exactly how this plays out behind the scenes. Just yesterday, I had Alex and Sam fiercely debating in my office about how to lay out their proposal for a complex trigonometric proof. Alex was practically shouting, arguing that we need to overload the opening paragraph with every single variation of the sine-squared identity, just flooding the page with technical dictionary definitions. Sam was fighting back, trying to pivot immediately into an analytical counterargument framework to maximize their mark accumulation, completely skipping the algebraic steps. As the managing director, I had to stop them both and enforce this exact 5-step framework. Step 1. Deconstruct the question. What is the explicit command word? Is it prove, solve, or show that? Step 2. Extract relevant data. You pull out the angles, the domains, the specific terms. Step 3. Select the analytical framework. Are you factoring here, or are you substituting tangent for sine over cosine? Step 4. Execute with clear notation. This is the exact step where Alex usually fails by skipping lines. Step 5. Present with terminology. State your final compliance clearly. By forcing your workflow into this incredibly rigid architecture, you guarantee that every single line of your working accumulates marks. Now we need to talk about the method mark strategy. This is how you maximize your ROI, your return on investment, through systematic processing and incredibly clear working. You have to remember this. Lock it into your brain. Marks are actively awarded for your procedural workflow. Showing systematic analysis is your absolute best return on investment. If your final answer is dead wrong because of some tiny, frustrating arithmetic error, but your structural framework, your actual method, is perfectly compliant with Cambridge regulations, you will still salvage the vast majority of the marks. You are literally being paid dividends by the examiner for showing your corporate reasoning on the page. It's exactly like building an aqueduct. Even if a little bit of water spills out at the very end, the robust, undeniable structural support of the arches is what gets the core value across the finish line.
For complex problem solving, elite candidates utilize this deconstruct, solve, evaluate workflow. They use it to question assumptions and justify decisions with concrete, undeniable evidence. Think of this as the Peel framework: point, evidence, explanation, link, but we have weaponized it for high-level mathematics. Let's say you encounter a critical structural roadblock mid-equation. You're working through it and suddenly your evidence beam loses market compliance. For example, you calculate that sine theta equals 2. Well, we automatically know that is mathematically impossible. What do? You don't cross everything out in a massive panic. You drop immediately into step 4, check for reasonableness. You actively evaluate the market data in front of you. You rewrite the response line by line out loud in your head. You say, wait a minute, the domain is restricted here. Or, my identity application was inverted. Transforming a low-value, flawed paragraph into a flawless A-star asset requires you to be a cold, calculating auditor of your own work in real time as you write it.
Section 3. Identifying liabilities through examiner warnings. But before we evaluate a real response to see if it secures a top-band valuation, we need to make sure your personal academic assets are properly managed. Stop what you are doing right now. Subscribe to Ace the Exams at the handle @AceTheExams and turn on all your notifications. It literally does not matter if your specific focus is Cambridge IGCSE, O-levels, AS, or full A-levels. This channel is your weekly board seat to securing elite grades. Make sure you are tapped in. All right, let's get back to the audit. We're going to conduct a severe liability check based directly on Cambridge Principal Examiner reports. Okay, consider this your live, interactive compliance audit. Let's do an asset inventory scan right now. On the left side of your screen, we have a liability response. What is inherently wrong with it? It is missing proper format and terminology. It is skipping steps. In the corporate world, this is the equivalent of handing your boss a crumpled sticky note instead of a bound financial report. On the right side, we have an asset response. It applies crystal clear annotations, appropriate formats, and exact mathematical terminology. I want you to act as the auditor right now. Scan that left column and mentally highlight the exact line where that liability response breaches Cambridge marking regulations. Did you catch it? It's right there in the middle where they completely fail to write equals between steps, which creates this floating, disjointed mathematical sentence. That single missing formatting choice crashes your grade valuation immediately. But look at the right side. The executive value meter on that response hits the maximum A-star mark, the full $1 million, because it leaves absolutely zero room for ambiguity. The principal examiner reports flag these 3 critical liabilities over and over again. These are exploits that consistently trigger massive valuation drops and cost candidates easy marks. Number 1, forgetting to include proper format. What does that mean? It means writing your trig identities without the theta symbol. Writing just sin instead of sine theta. Let me tell you, that is a massive, unforgivable compliance failure. Number 2, forgetting to check format and presentation. Listen, if your handwriting under pressure makes a plus sign look like a division sign, the examiner is not going to spend their valuable time deciphering your personal code. They will simply reject the proposal and move on. Number 3, answers are not specific to the context given. If the question explicitly asks for solutions in radians between 0 and pi, and you boldly provide answers in degrees all the way up to 360, your asset is entirely void. You must calibrate your feedback to the exact constraints of the given prompt.
Now this is a massive piece of executive insight straight from the examiners. It proves that defining your terms before using them and actively integrating trigonometry with other syllabus areas secures the highest possible market valuation. They noted that candidates referencing cross-topic connections achieve significantly higher marks. What does this mean for you? It means if a question merges trigonometric identities with calculus, or if it embeds a trig identity inside a hidden quadratic equation, and you can seamlessly transition your analytical framework to handle both of those concepts simultaneously, your value skyrockets. The examiner is actively looking for board-level directors who can see the entire company, not just an employee stuck in one isolated department.
This brings us to Section 4, the final compliance audit. Let's look at exactly how to ensure your mathematical proposal is entirely bulletproof before you physically hand over your paper. Think of this as your absolute last line of defense against grade depreciation.
Before you finalize your answer and sign off on that proposal, you must audit the quality of your evidence. You do this by actively checking for limitations and strictly verifying how assumptions affect your final conclusions. Ask yourself, have I assumed an angle is acute when the data says it could be obtuse? Have I confidently divided an entire equation by a trigonometric term without verifying first that it doesn't equal 0? Because if you did, you just lost the completely valid root of the equation and tanked your valuation. Top-scoring elite candidates constantly run this internal background check. They evaluate the risks of their own algebra in real time. They look for alternative interpretations of the data layout. This kind of rigorous corporate-level evaluative reasoning is the exact filter that separates the middle management B grades from the A-star executives.
To ensure rapid, flawless recall when you are sitting in the exam hall boardroom, you need to build a mnemonic anchor using the first letters of your procedural key terms. For instance, take our framework from earlier: deconstruct, extract, select, execute, present. DESEP. Lock that specific sequence into your mind right now. When you open that paper and your heart rate spikes and the pressure is on, you don't panic, you just calmly execute the DESEP protocol. You lean entirely on your structured, rehearsed frameworks, which completely bypasses cognitive overload and instantly allocates all your mental resources exactly where they belong, executing the math.
So today, we have engineered a flawless C-suite level approach. We've mastered the due diligence scan where you decode the actual identities. We've set up the resource allocation matrix where you perfectly manage your method marks and timing. And we've implemented the final compliance audit where you review your structural checklist. I want to leave you with this final audit challenge to ponder before your next exam. Honestly evaluate your own mathematical assets right now. Are they fully compliant? Or is a single missing format, a single drop theta, about to completely crash your grade valuation? Think about it. Before you go, ensure your board seat is totally secure. Subscribe to Ace the Exams at Ace the Exams. Hit that notification bell for our weekly executive sessions, and drop a comment below right now stating your target grade, your qualification tier, and your subject. Class dismissed.